All right, let's kick off this deep dive. You've sent over a ton of papers on medical AI research. It's pretty clear you're really interested in the latest and greatest stuff. And honestly, who wouldn't be? Medical AI is absolutely exploding right now. We're going to try and extract those key findings, those really cool breakthroughs that could change how we think about healthcare.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to unpack here. We're talking AI that can analyze images, process language, and even reason about complex medical scenarios.
It's wild, right? Let's jump right in with a paper that caught my eye. UnPuzzle, a unified framework for pathology image analysis. Just that title alone makes it sound like it's solving a major problem.
It really does. You know how there is so many brilliant researchers working on AI for pathology? Well, wouldn't it be amazing if we could easily compare their findings, like build on each other's work? That's what this paper is trying to solve. This paper by Dingkai Liao and a bunch of other researchers tackles that head on. Right now, comparing different AI models is like trying to fit together puzzle pieces from different puzzles. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, because everyone's using different methods and different data sets. It's like a recipe for total confusion.
Exactly. UnPuzzle is trying to bring some order to that chaos by providing this standardized framework. It's like they're trying to establish a common language for pathology AI.
Oh, that makes sense. So instead of everyone speaking different AI languages, we can finally understand each other.
Yeah.
So speaking of AI that can analyze images, this next paper takes us to the world of ophthalmology and automated retinal analysis.
This paper by S. Chen and their colleagues dives into the world of SD-OCT imaging. SD-OCT is basically a really high-resolution 3D scan of your eye. It's been super helpful for diagnosing things like diabetic retinopathy, but analyzing all those images, it can take up so much of an ophthalmologist's time.
So this research is trying to give those doctors a helping hand, right? Like free up their time so they can focus on the things that only humans can do.
Exactly. They created this AI system that can automatically segment the different layers of the retina, and detect those really subtle signs of disease. It's like having an AI assistant that can pre-screen those images and highlight any potential problems.
That's amazing. It can save so much time and even lives if it can catch those early signs of disease. The paper mentioned something that really stood out to me. They found that different AI models are actually better at analyzing certain parts of the retina.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It suggests that we might need specialized AI experts, each one trained for a specific task, even within something as specific as retinal analysis.
So it's like building an all-star AI team. Okay, this next paper tackles something I know you're really passionate about, and it's something we hear a lot from our listeners: data privacy in healthcare.
Oh, you mean KidneyTalk-open? This paper by Young-Kao Long and their team, it really impressed me, They focused on bringing the power of large language models, or LLMs, directly to clinicians in a way that keeps patient data safe.
Okay, so these LLMs, they're like the AI superbrains that can process all that complex medical information, right? But how do you make them usable without sending all that sensitive data to the cloud?
That's what's so cool about this. KidneyTalk-open is designed to be a desktop system. All the processing happens locally, right there on the doctor's computer. No need to send anything to a server. Plus, and this is huge, especially for clinicians who aren't programmers, it uses a no-code interface.
So even if you're not a tech expert, you can still tap into the power of these LLMs. That's amazing.
It really is. It addresses a growing need to make these really powerful AI tools available to clinicians who are actually treating patients. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about this paper that dives into something super complex: predicting drug combination outcomes.
This is the Madrigal paper, right?
Huh.
By Yupeng Huang and their colleagues. Just trying to understand how different drugs interact, especially when you're combining them. It's mind-blowing.
It is incredibly complex, and that's why a lot of the traditional methods haven't worked that well. Madrigal is unique because it takes this multimodal approach. What that means is it pulls in data from all kinds of sources: structural data, pathway information, cell viability, even transcriptomic data.
So it's like going from a grainy photo to a high-definition video. But even with all that data, there are always going to be missing pieces, right?
Yeah, you're right. And that's another place where Madrigal really shines. One of its big strengths is its ability to handle missing data. So even if you don't have all the information, the AI can still make pretty accurate predictions about how those drug combinations are going to behave.
That's huge, especially for real-world situations. In a clinical setting, you don't always have all the information you want. Okay, the next paper we're going to talk about feels straight out of science fiction AI that can actually understand and analyze pathology reports. It sounds crazy.
I know, right? It does sound like something out of a movie. But this research by Rachit Saluja and their team, it shows that large language models, those LLMs we talked about earlier, are really good at making sense of the language in pathology reports.
So we're talking about AI that goes way beyond just simple data extraction. It's actually understanding what's in those reports, right?
Exactly. Think about all the information in those reports, detailed descriptions of tissues, cellular structures, potential problems. It's all there, but it's always been hard to analyze on a large scale. LLMs are changing that.
Wow, that's incredible. So what are these LLMs doing with all this information? What can they actually do with these pathology reports?
Well, in this study, they use the LLMs for cancer identification, staging, and even figuring out a patient's prognosis. And the results were really promising. In some cases, these AI systems were even better than the methods we're already using.
So we're talking about AI that's not just helping with diagnosis, but also potentially predicting a patient's future health.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal.
It is. And this is really just the beginning. There's so much potential for using LLMs to analyze all sorts of medical text data, from doctor's notes to research articles. It's like opening up a whole new level of understanding.
Speaking of new levels, the next paper focuses on RetinalGPT.
Yeah.
I'm guessing based on the name, This is going to be good.
RetinalGPT, which was developed by Wenhui Zhu and their team, it takes AI-assisted ophthalmology to a whole new level. Remember how we talked about KidneyTalk-open and how important privacy and accessibility are? Well, RetinalGPT is built with those same principles in mind, but it adds a whole other dimension.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Imagine a doctor having an AI assistant that can not only analyze retinal images, but can also have a natural conversation about the findings.
Right.
That's basically what RetinalGPT does.
So it's like having a back-and-forth discussion with the AI about a patient's eye health. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's groundbreaking. RetinalGPT can do more than just say there's a problem or everything looks good. It can actually give quantitative analysis, It can measure things like how thick the retina is or the size of any lesions, and it can even show exactly where those lesions are on the image, which makes it super easy for the doctor to understand what's going on.
Wow, that level of detail and back and forth is incredible. But I'm sure even with all that, it still can't completely replace a human ophthalmologist, right?
Right. It's not designed to replace human expertise, but it can definitely enhance it, which could lead to a huge improvement in the quality and efficiency of care.
This next paper we're going to talk about focuses on something I hadn't even thought about, but it makes so much sense. How do you make sure AI systems really understand what they're seeing and what you're asking them?
You're talking about biomedical visual question answering, or BioVQA. This paper by Zheng Yangji and their colleagues really gets into the details of that challenge. It's like this. You show an AI an X-ray and ask it, is this patient's left femur fractured?
So the AI needs to make sense of both the image, which is the X-ray, and the question, which is what you're specifically looking for.
Yep, exactly. And this paper introduces a new framework called BioD2C, which basically tries to make sure that AI is understanding both the visual and the language information at the same time.
So it's connecting what it sees to what you're asking it, right? Because a simple yes or no in medicine isn't enough. It needs a deeper understanding.
You got it. And they actually created a whole new data set called BioVGQ to train these BioVQA systems. And what I really like about this data set is that they tried to make it more fair and balanced, getting rid of biases that were in older data sets.
So they're teaching the AI to be less biased, right?
Exactly. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Now, the next paper uses a really cool analogy. MedLego.
MedLego. I love it. So we're building something amazing using AI.
You got it. This research, which was led by Yitao Zhu and a team of researchers, it's all about creating more general medical AI models by combining the strengths of specialized models. Like how we talked about some AIs being specialists, really good at just one thing, and others being more like generalists, able to handle a wider range of things.
Yeah, it's like having that perfect AI team, each member with their own special skills.
Exactly. MedLego takes that idea even further. It's based on the idea that instead of starting from scratch every time you want a new AI model, you can take these really well-trained specialist AI models and kind of snap them together to create a new one that's more versatile and can do a bunch of different things.
Well, I get it, just like building with Legos. But instead of a spaceship, we're building a super powerful medical AI.
Perfect analogy. And the best part is that they're doing this without having to retrain the whole model from the beginning, which would take forever and use a ton of resources. It's all about efficiency.
So we're not reinventing the wheel every time. Now I'm curious, where does this combining knowledge approach lead us next?
Well, the next paper we're going to talk about takes this whole AI learning from experience thing to a whole new level. Get ready for Ego Life.
Okay, the name alone has got me interested. Ego Life. It sounds so personal.
It is. This research, led by Jinkang Yang and a whole team of researchers, is all about developing an AI that's basically woven into our daily lives, Imagine an AI that's constantly learning from your experiences, observing everything you do, and even anticipating your needs.
Wait, hold on. So it's not just analyzing data sets anymore. We're talking about AI that's learning from our actual lives.
Exactly. They put together this massive collection of video data called the Ego Life dataset. What they did was have people wear glasses with built-in cameras, and these cameras recorded their daily routines, making breakfast, working on projects, hanging out with friends, all sorts of things.
So it's like the AI is right there with you, experiencing life through your eyes. But what's the AI actually doing with all that information? Is it just watching, or is it learning and understanding?
It's definitely learning. They created this set of tasks they called Ego Life QA, and these tasks test the AI's ability to answer questions about what it's seen. And we're not talking simple questions like, what color shirt was someone wearing? These are complex questions that require the AI to understand context, remember a sequence of events, and even figure out patterns over a long period of time.
Wow, that's a lot for the AI to handle. How does it even begin to make sense of all that?
They developed this system called Ego Butler, which has two main parts, EgoGPT and EgoRAG. EgoGPT is like the brains of the operation. It's an AI model that's been trained on all that personal data, the videos and the audio to figure out what's happening. EgoRAG is more like the memory and retrieval system.
Oh, I see. So EgoRAG is like the AI's own personal Google, letting us search through all that life data and pull up what it needs to answer those tough questions.
Exactly. This research opens up so many possibilities for how AI could become a natural part of our everyday routines, helping us remember things, stay organized, maybe even make smarter decisions. But of course, it also makes you think about those big questions about privacy and control. If AI knows that much about our lives, how do we make sure it's used responsibly and ethically?
That's such an important point. It feels like every amazing step forward in AI also brings up ethical challenges that we really need to think about.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get too deep into that rabbit hole, let's move on to the next paper, which is all about figuring out if LLMs can reason ethically within healthcare.
This one is called MedEthicEval, and it's by Hawan Jin and their colleagues. It's really fascinating because it looks at whether these AI systems can not only perform tasks, but also make decisions that are ethically sound.
So it's not just about if the AI can do the job, but if it can do it the right way, ethically speaking. That's a big difference.
Absolutely. We can't just assume that AI will automatically make ethical choices just because it's intelligent. We need to figure out how to test and evaluate its ability to reason ethically.
So MedEthicEval is like an ethics test for AI, right?
That's a great way to put it. They put together these 3 data sets that present different ethical challenges, everything from clear violations of medical ethics to more complex dilemmas with no easy answers.
So it's not a simple pass-fail situation. It's designed to really test how well the AI can navigate those ethical gray areas in medicine.
Exactly. And this kind of testing is super important as we develop more advanced AI systems that could be making life or death decisions. We need to know they have a good ethical compass.
Okay, that's a great point. Even as we get excited about all the amazing things AI can do, we can't lose sight of those fundamental ethical considerations. Okay, let's move on to this next paper, which is a systematic review of how LLMs are being used for text classification in healthcare. Now, systematic reviews can be a little dense sometimes, but they're also super valuable because they pull together a ton of research into a format that's easier to digest.
Yeah, they're like a curated collection of knowledge on a specific topic.
Yeah.
And this review by Hajar Sakai and Sarah Eslam, it's an amazing resource for anyone who wants to understand how LLMs are being used for text classification in healthcare, things like analyzing patient notes, coding medical records, even finding potential public health trends from what people are saying on social media.
It's like making sense of all those words and sentences that are floating around the healthcare world. But I imagine there were some unique challenges when it comes to using LLMs for this kind of work.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. One of the biggest challenges is dealing with imbalanced data. Like, imagine you're trying to teach an AI to spot a rare disease from medical records. You might only have a few cases to work with, compared to thousands of examples of more common conditions. That can really mess up the AI's learning process.
It's like trying to teach someone about different types of trees, but only showing them pictures of oak trees.
Exactly. And of course, we always have to think about patient privacy. You have to be incredibly careful about how you use and share sensitive medical information when you're training these AI systems.
Absolutely. It's great to hear that researchers are working on those challenges. Okay, so this next paper caught my eye because it's about an AI system called Risk Agent, which is designed specifically for general risk prediction.
This paper, written by Fenglin Liu and a team of researchers, it's a really fascinating look at how we can build AI that can assess risk in all kinds of medical situations. Remember how we were talking about specialist AIs that are great at one specific thing, and then they're generalists that can handle a broader range of tasks?
Yeah, the specialist versus generalist debate. I'm guessing Risk Agent falls into that generalist category, right?
I got it. Risk Agent is designed to handle all sorts of risk prediction situations, covering hundreds of different risk factors for different diseases and medical specialties. In fact, to put Risk Agent through its paces, they actually created the first specialized benchmark for risk prediction called MedRisk.
So it's like a big comprehensive test for this AI risk predictor, right? To see how it measures up.
Exactly. And Risk Agent did incredibly well. It actually outperformed some of the top commercial LLMs, particularly when it came to predicting risks for those rare diseases.
That's seriously impressive. It shows how powerful AI could be for identifying patients who might be at higher risk for certain conditions, which would allow for earlier interventions and potentially even better outcomes.
Absolutely. This research is a perfect example of how we can create AI systems that can handle the complexity of real-world clinical decision-making, where you often have to consider a ton of factors and potential risks. It's about going beyond those super specific tasks and creating AI that can tackle those bigger picture problems.
This next paper takes us back to the world of specialized data sets and how important they are for training AI for specific tasks. I'm always ready for a good data deep dive.
This one focuses on reports from echocardiograms, which are those ultrasound images of the heart. They're really important for diagnosing all sorts of heart conditions. This paper by Lemma Mukhyber and their team, it's called EchoQA. EchoQA is all about making the information in those reports more accessible by training AI to understand them and answer questions about them.
So we're training AI to be able to read and interpret those echocardiogram reports like a cardiologist would. That sounds incredibly complex.
It is, but it's also super valuable. Think about how much time cardiologists spend going over those reports. If we can train AI to extract the important information more quickly, it could free up their time so they can focus on those more complicated cases or even spend more time with their patients.
I can definitely see the benefits for both doctors and patients. So what sorts of questions is this AI being trained to answer?
They've created a data set with over 770,000 question-answer pairs, covering a huge range of findings from echocardiograms. It's basically a massive training guide for the AI, teaching it to recognize patterns and understand all the little details in those reports.
Wow, that's a lot of data, 770,000 question-answer pairs. But how does this research fit into the bigger picture of AI in healthcare?
It really highlights the importance of having these specialized data sets for training AI for specific medical tasks. You can't just feed any old data to these AI systems and expect them to magically become experts in cardiology or any other specialty. You have to give them the right kind of data, tailored to the specific job you want them to do.
It's like giving the AI the right tools for the job. Okay, so the next paper on our list tackles a really fundamental challenge in AI. How do you teach it to follow instructions effectively, especially in complex fields like healthcare?
This is such a crucial area of research, and this paper introduces a new benchmark called IFI, which stands for Instruction Following in Expert Domain Information Retrieval. It's by Tingyu Song and their colleagues, and it's designed to assess how well AI can follow instructions in specialized fields, including finance, law, healthcare, and science.
So it's not just about understanding language in general, it's about understanding how to use that language in specific situations, right?
Exactly. It's like the difference between knowing what surgery means and actually being able to perform a surgery IIR, test the AI's ability to take complex instructions that are specific to a field and turn them into actions.
That seems really important for building helpful AI assistants in healthcare. Imagine a doctor asking the AI, find me the latest research on using immunotherapy for this specific type of lung cancer.
That's exactly the kind of situation IFIR is designed to test. And this research really shows just how hard these tests can be for the current AI models. It's a reminder that we still have a long way to go before we can build AI that can truly understand and interact with the world the same way we do.
It's all about setting realistic expectations and remembering that AI is still evolving. But even with those challenges, the progress we're seeing is incredible. Okay, moving on to the next paper, which brings us back to that fascinating world of multimodal AI, specifically the challenge of unifying vision and language in medicine.
Yeah, this paper, MedUnifier, by Xiang Zhang and their colleagues, tackles that challenge head-on. What's really innovative about MedUnifier is that it goes beyond just understanding medical images and text. It can actually create and transform visual content.
So are we talking about AI that can recognize what's in an image and create entirely new visual representations based on that?
That's exactly it. Imagine being able to describe a medical concept in words, and then the AI generates a visual representation of that concept.
That's amazing. Like having an AI artist who specializes in medical illustration. It seems like we're entering an era where AI isn't just interpreting data, it's creating new types of data based on what it's learned.
You got it. MedUnifier uses something called visual vector quantization, which helps the AI learn more effectively from both visual and text data, and that leads to better image generation and a more seamless blending of different modalities.
So it's creating a more integrated learning experience for the AI, resulting in more sophisticated outputs.
Okay, the next paper we're going to talk about is focused on something I hadn't considered before, but it's super interesting. Using AI to analyze voice data to spot voice disorders.
This is a really cool area of research. This paper by Tok and Christian Klazen introduces a new method called VoiceGRPO. It's all about using AI to pick up on those subtle changes in someone's voice that might be a sign of a voice problem.
So instead of relying only on a doctor's ear to hear those changes, we could use AI to analyze how someone's speaking and find patterns that might suggest a problem. Exactly. Think about things like vocal cord paralysis, spasmodic dystonia, or even early signs of neurological conditions like Parkinson's disease. All these can change how someone sounds, and catching them early can make a huge difference in treatment.
It's like giving doctors a superpower, helping them hear things they might otherwise miss. What makes this VoiceGRPO approach special? How is it different from other methods?
VoiceGRPO combines the power of transformer architectures, which are really good at processing sequential data like speech, with training strategies inspired by reinforcement learning.
Oh, reinforcement learning. Isn't that how they train those AIs that play games like Go and StarCraft?
You got it. It's a powerful way to teach AI to learn through trial and error, getting better each time. And in this case, they're using it to train the AI to recognize patterns in voice data that are linked to different voice disorders.
So it's like the AI is playing a game of spot the voice disorder and getting better at it every time.
Pretty much. The researchers found that VoiceGRPO was significantly better at diagnosing voice disorders than traditional methods, which is super exciting. It shows how AI could totally change how we approach voice pathology detection.
This is such a cool example of how AI can be used in healthcare in ways we might not even think of.
Yeah.
Okay, the next paper is a bit intimidating. It takes us right into the operating room, with AI assisting surgeons in real time.
It's definitely cutting-edge stuff. This research, done by Saidamir Musavi and their team, focuses on what's called zero-shot surgical video segmentation.
Okay, I'm going to need you to break that down for me. Zero-shot surgical video segmentation. What does that even mean?
Imagine you're watching a live feed of a surgery, and you want the AI to automatically outline and track all the different anatomical structures, the organs, the blood vessels, the surgical instruments, all while they're moving around. That's basically what surgical video segmentation is.
So it's like giving the AI X-ray vision so it can see and understand what's happening inside the patient.
Exactly. And the zero-shot part means the AI can do this even for surgeries it's never seen before.
Wait, how is that possible? How can it know what to look for if it's never seen that specific surgery before?
That's where the magic of zero-shot learning comes in. The AI is trained on a huge data set of surgical videos that cover all sorts of procedures. This lets it learn general features and patterns that it can apply even to surgeries it hasn't seen before.
It's like it's learning the fundamental rules of surgery, right?
Yeah.
It can see the patterns and how different parts of the body relate to each other, no matter what the specific surgery is.
Exactly. And in this research, they're exploring a cross-patient approach to zero-shot segmentation.
Okay, now I'm really interested. What does cross-patient mean?
It means that instead of relying on manually labeled frames from the surgery that's happening right then, they're using frames from surgeries on other patients that have already been labeled. It's like the AI is learning from a combination of all those past surgeries.
That's a really smart way to use the data we already have. And it could save a ton of time and effort by not needing as much manual labeling.
Exactly. It's about making AI more efficient and practical for real surgeries. And surprisingly, the researchers found that this cross-patient method worked really well, which opens up some exciting possibilities for AI-assisted surgery.
It makes me wonder if we could eventually have personalized surgical guidance based on a patient's unique anatomy. The AI could use what it's learned from previous surgeries to help a surgeon navigate the specific challenges of each individual case.
You're thinking ahead. That's definitely a really interesting area of research. Now, this next paper we're going to talk about gets back to a challenge we've been discussing throughout today's deep dive. How do we bridge the gap between general AI models and the specific knowledge needed in certain medical areas, like medical imaging?
Right. We talk about how those general AI models can be amazing at recognizing everyday objects, but they often have trouble with the details of medical images. It's like they need to go to medical school.
Exactly. And this research by Maxime Defolco and their colleagues explores a technique called model stitching, which basically lets us add that specific medical knowledge to general AI models without needing to retrain them completely.
So it's like a shortcut to becoming an expert.
Exactly. And they've actually shown that this model stitching approach can lead to significant improvements in how well these AI systems perform on medical imaging tasks.
It's like the AI is learning not just from data, but from human expertise as well. It's a powerful combination. Okay, so the next paper is called FunBench. Sounds like a fun place for AI to hang out.
Well, it's not quite a playground, but it is a way to evaluate how well AI can interpret fundus images, which are those images of the back of the eye. This research is by Kaji Wei and their team, and they designed FunBench to test those multimodal large language models, the ones that can handle both text and images.
Right, the MLLMs. So FunBench is like a comprehensive eye exam for these AI models, testing how well they can understand the anatomy, identify problems, and even make diagnoses from fundus images.
Exactly. What's really interesting about FunBench is that it breaks the evaluation down into different modules, so you can see exactly what the AI is good at and where it struggles. It's not just a simple pass or fail, it's a detailed report card on the AI's ophthalmology skills.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It gives a much clearer picture of what the AI can actually do. So how did the MLLMs do on FunBench? Did they pass their eye exams?
Well, the results were a bit of a mixed bag. Some of them did really well, showing they had a good grasp of how to interpret fundus images, but others had a harder time, even with basic stuff like figuring out which eye was the left one and which was the right one.
Oh, that doesn't sound very good.
It definitely shows that we need to do more specialized training for medical AI. We can't expect these general purpose models to be experts in everything. We need to give them that specific knowledge and experience they need to really excel in areas like ophthalmology.
Okay, so specialized training for specialized tasks. It's a reminder that these AI models are incredibly powerful, but they still need the right kind of guidance to reach their full potential in healthcare. All right, let's talk about this next paper. It tackles a problem that's way too common in healthcare: overprescribing medication. It's an issue I know you care a lot about.
It is a critical issue, and it has a big impact on patient safety and healthcare costs. This research by Zihao Zhao and their team takes a close look at AI-powered medication recommendation systems with a focus on how to reduce overprescribing.
So they're trying to build AI systems that can help doctors make smarter and more appropriate decisions about prescribing medications, right? That seems like a really important goal, especially these days when more and more people are taking multiple medications.
Exactly. And their approach is pretty interesting. They've developed a system called LAMO, which stands for Language Assisted Medication Recommendation. LAMO is different because it doesn't just look at structured patient data, things like age, diagnosis, lab results. It also takes into account the information in clinical notes.
Clinical notes, those are the free text entries doctors make in a patient's medical record, right? There must be so much valuable information in those notes.
Absolutely. They often contain details that might not be captured in those more structured data fields, things like specific symptoms, a patient's concerns, their lifestyle, all things that could be relevant to making decisions about medication.
It's like LAMO is an AI detective, digging into those notes to find clues that might otherwise be missed.
I love that analogy. And another impressive thing about LAMO is that it did really well in tests, both internally and externally. That means it was able to accurately predict medication recommendations across different hospital settings.
That's really important. It suggests that LAMO could be used in lots of different places and with different groups of patients. It would really help reduce overprescribing in a big way.
Definitely a step in the right direction. Now, let's talk about a paper that brings virtual reality into healthcare education. I know you're a big fan of VR, so I think you'll like this one.
I'm already excited. VR is amazing at creating those immersive experiences that you just can't get in the real world. So what kind of healthcare education are we talking about here?
This research, led by Shukitomi Zhu and their colleagues, is about designing a VR simulation for training clinicians in how to communicate. It's all about creating those realistic patient encounters in a safe, controlled space, giving medical students a chance to practice those tough conversations before they have to have them for real.
I can see how valuable that would be. It's like a flight simulator for doctors, helping them fine-tune their communication skills before they're interacting with real patients. What really caught my attention was the mention of AI-powered embodied conversational agents, or ECAs. Those sound like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
They are pretty incredible. ECAs are like virtual characters that can have conversations with humans that feel incredibly natural and real. In these VR simulations, the ECAs actually play the role of patients, letting med students practice all sorts of communication skills, from taking medical histories to breaking bad news.
So it's like having a standardized patient you can interact with in VR, but with the added power of AI, right? That must create a much more dynamic and personalized learning experience.
You got it. Because the ECAs are powered by AI, they can be programmed with different personalities, medical conditions, and communication styles. It makes the training experience so much richer and more nuanced than you could get with a traditional standardized patient.
That's amazing. It's like having a whole cast of virtual patients to learn from, each with their own unique story. Okay, let's dive into this next paper, which takes us into the world of bioinformatics, a field that's always seemed a bit intimidating to me, to be honest.
It's a really interesting field. This survey paper by Zhenyu Wang and their colleagues does a great job of explaining how LLMs can be used in bioinformatics. We're talking about using the power of those large language models we discussed earlier to analyze and understand the massive amounts of data that are generated in biological research, things like genomic sequences, protein structures, and how genes are expressed.
It's like using AI to crack the code of life itself. It's super ambitious. How does this type of research fit into the bigger picture of AI in healthcare? What are some real-world applications of this?
The potential uses are huge. This paper highlights a bunch of exciting possibilities, from predicting how proteins will fold to identifying new drug targets to understanding the complicated mechanisms of disease. We're talking about breakthroughs that could completely change how we diagnose, treat, and even prevent diseases.
That's incredible. It feels like we're on the edge of a new era in medicine, where AI is playing a crucial role in unraveling the mysteries of the human body.
It's a super exciting time to be working in this field, but as with any new frontier, there are always challenges to overcome.
Right. We've talked about things like limited data, how complex the computations can be, and the constant need to consider the ethical implications.
You got it. And this paper addresses those challenges head on. It acknowledges the hurdles we still need to overcome while highlighting all the incredible progress that's been made.
It's all about finding that balance between optimism and a healthy dose of realism. Right. Recognizing the huge potential of AI while also staying grounded in the limitations and making sure we develop it responsibly.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. The next paper on our list is particularly heartwarming because it focuses on using conversational AI to help people living with Parkinson's disease.
This research, led by Mashro Rashik and their team, introduces a system called Patrika, an AI-powered conversational journaling system specifically designed for people with Parkinson's disease. Journaling can be really helpful for managing chronic conditions, but it can be tough to stay motivated and consistent, keep up with it. Patrika aims to make journaling more engaging and effective by bringing in elements of conversation and AI.
So it's like having a conversation with your journal, but with the added bonus of AI-powered insights and support. That's really cool. Exactly. Patrika is like a virtual companion that guides users through the journaling process, asking them questions, giving feedback, and even offering words of encouragement. It's all about making journaling feel more like a supportive back-and-forth dialogue and less like a solo mission.
I can imagine that would be super helpful for people with Parkinson's disease, who often struggle with things like motor control and cognitive function. It seems like Patrika could make journaling a much more accessible and rewarding experience.
Definitely. And what's really innovative about their approach is that they've incorporated principles of clinical interviews into how Patrika works. It uses techniques like asking probing questions and practicing active listening to get more detailed and accurate information from users.
So it's not just passively recording what the user is typing, it's actively engaging with them to help them capture those important details and reflections.
Exactly. It's like having a virtual therapist or coach who's right there with you, guiding you through the journaling process and helping you make the most of it.
Okay, the next paper on our list takes us into the world of speech and language technology, specifically voice cloning, which has always captured my imagination.
This research by Birger Moel and Fredrik Sand Aronson looks at using voice cloning to create synthetic speech for people with dysarthria, which is a condition that affects speech clarity and makes it harder to understand what someone is saying. It can make communication a real challenge.
Voice cloning could be absolutely life-changing for people with dysarthria. It's almost like giving them their voice back. How realistic are these synthetic voices, though? Are they just generic computer voices, or do they actually sound like the individual?
That's what's so remarkable about this technology. The synthetic voices can be incredibly lifelike, preserving the person's unique intonation, rhythm, and even their accent. The researchers actually did an experiment where they had trained speech-language pathologists listen to both real and synthetic speech samples, and the experts could barely tell the difference.
Wow, that's really impressive. So how could this technology actually help people with dysarthria in their day-to-day lives?
Well, one possibility is using it in communication aids. People with dysarthria could use their voice clones to communicate more clearly and effectively, which could really reduce the frustration and isolation that often come with speech difficulties.
That's a beautiful use of this technology. It's about empowering people to connect with the world around them. Speaking of connecting, the next paper tackles the tricky task of understanding the time element within healthcare data, something we've been touching on throughout today's deep dive.
It's a crucial aspect of healthcare data. We're talking about those longitudinal clinical records, the ones that track a patient's health journey over time. It's like putting together a puzzle, but the pieces are scattered across weeks, months, even years. To really get a grasp of someone's health, you have to see that whole picture, how their condition has changed, how they've responded to different treatments, all the factors that might be influencing their health over time.
It's about understanding that health isn't just a single snapshot, it's a journey, right? And I can imagine this temporal dimension as a whole new level of difficulty to analyzing healthcare data.
Absolutely. Traditional machine learning models often struggle with those temporal relationships, but that's where this research by Hejikri and their team steps in. They have come up with a framework called TIMER, which stands for Temporal Instruction Modeling and Evaluation for Longitudinal Clinical Records.
TIMER. I love it. It sounds like it's bringing that much-needed awareness of time to the world of AI in healthcare.
Hmm.
So how does Timer work? How does it help AI understand the sequence of events in a patient's health history?
Timer uses a technique called instruction tuning to teach AI systems how to handle and interpret time-related information within those longitudinal records. It's like giving the AI a set of instructions on how to read a timeline.
Oh, I see. So instead of just seeing a bunch of random data points, the AI starts to see the story that those data points are telling. It can understand how a patient's condition has developed, what factors might have played a role, and how that knowledge might influence future treatment decisions.
That's it exactly. And to test how well these AI systems are doing, they put together a benchmark called Timer Bench. Think of it like a test track for AI that wants to prove how good it is at handling time.
So how did those AI systems perform on that test track? Were they able to handle those time-related twists and turns?
The results were pretty exciting. The researchers found that models that were trained with those time-focused instructions showed significant improvements in their ability to understand the connections between events in those longitudinal healthcare records. It's a promising step towards building AI systems that can truly understand the complexities of human health over time.
It makes me think about all the possibilities this kind of AI could offer. Imagine using AI to predict which patients might be at risk for complications from a certain condition, or to identify people who might benefit from a specific treatment based on their unique health history.
You're spot on. Those are exactly the kinds of doors this research opens up. It's about going beyond those static snapshots of health and moving towards a more dynamic, personalized understanding of each patient's journey. Speaking of personalized medicine, the next paper we're diving into looks at zero-shot learning for classifying medical images.
Zero-shot learning, that's the idea of teaching AI to recognize things it's never encountered before, right?
Yeah.
It almost sounds too good to be true.
It's a fascinating area of research, and this paper by Xin Li and their team explores a really innovative approach to zero-shot learning for classifying medical images. Their method focuses on using those captions you see with images to guide how the AI learns.
Image captions, those little descriptions under pictures, right? Like the ones you might see in a magazine or online. But how can something as simple as a caption help AI figure out medical images it's never seen before?
It's all about the information packed into those captions. They often go beyond simple labels and give more detailed descriptions of what's in the image. For example, instead of just saying chest x-ray, a caption might say chest x-ray showing pneumonia in the lower right lobe.
So it's giving the AI more context, more clues to connect those visual features in the image to the underlying medical issue.
Exactly. And the researchers actually found that using this caption-guided approach made the AI significantly better at zero-shot medical image classification. It suggests that we might be able to train AI to be much more adaptable and flexible, even when it encounters brand new medical images it's never seen before.
That's a huge step forward for AI in medicine. It's about moving towards AI systems that can learn and adapt in a way that's closer to how humans do it. Okay, the next paper tackles a topic that's essential for building any AI system that we can trust, especially in healthcare. Robustness.
This research, by Pengfei Zhang and their team, focuses on a technique called adversarial training to improve the robustness of AI systems used for analyzing medical images. Think of it like giving the AI a really intense workout, pushing it to its limits to make sure it can handle the complexities of real-world medical images.
So it's like making sure the AI isn't easily tricked by things like variations in image quality, different lighting conditions, or subtle anatomical differences. Because those kinds of variations happen all the time in real-world medical situations, right?
Exactly. Adversarial training basically exposes the AI to these carefully crafted adversarial examples, which are images that have been tweaked in subtle ways to try and make the AI mess up.
It's like showing the AI a bunch of optical illusions, teaching it to see past the trickery. I can see how that would be a super effective training method.
It is. By constantly showing the AI these tricky examples and then correcting its mistakes, you're essentially forcing it to develop more robust features and decision-making strategies.
So we're giving the AI a healthy dose of skepticism, teaching it to question what it's seeing and not be so easily fooled by subtle manipulations.
I like how you put that. And the researchers found that this adversarial training approach made a big difference in how well those AI systems could analyze medical images. It's a really promising way to build AI systems that can handle the unpredictable nature of real-world healthcare data.
Okay, the next paper takes us into the world of hospitals, which I know can be a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
How is AI being used to smooth out some of those operational challenges?
This research by Dejin and their colleagues focuses on using AI to streamline how patients move through emergency departments. We're talking about one of the most high-pressure environments in healthcare where every second counts.
I can only imagine how challenging it is to manage patient flow in an ER. You have patients coming in with all sorts of conditions, some needing immediate attention, others needing less urgent care. And you have limited resources, beds, staff, equipment, and you have to make sure everyone gets the right care as quickly and efficiently as possible. It's like a giant, constantly changing puzzle.
Exactly. And the traditional ways of managing patient flow often rely on rules of thumb or past data, which aren't always the best approach in such a dynamic setting like an ER. That's where AI can be a game changer.
So how is AI being used to help solve that puzzle?
The researchers created an AI system that uses reinforcement learning to optimize how patients are moved through the ER in real time. Remember when we were talking about reinforcement learning and how it's used to train AI to play games? Well, it turns out that same approach can be really effective at solving real-world problems like managing patient flow.
So it's like the AI is playing a game of optimize the emergency department, learning as it goes and getting better at making those critical decisions about how to use resources and prioritize patient care.
I like that analogy. And they actually tested this system in a simulated emergency department and found that it worked better than the traditional methods, resulting in shorter wait times and improved outcomes for patients.
That's amazing. It seems like AI could play a crucial role in making hospitals operate more smoothly and efficiently, ultimately benefiting everyone involved. Okay, let's move on to a paper that focuses on another essential element of healthcare communication, specifically how AI can be used to improve the quality of those conversations between patients and their healthcare providers.
This research by Lucine Abrahamian and their team is all about using large language models, those LLMs we've talked about, to enhance empathy in healthcare conversations. We know that empathy is incredibly important in healthcare, but it can be hard for providers to consistently express empathy, especially in those high-stress clinical environments.
I can imagine. Doctors and nurses are dealing with so much time pressure, emotional burden, those complex cases. It's easy to get caught up in the technical side of care and lose sight of the human connection.
Exactly, and that's where AI can come in to provide support. The researchers developed an LLM-based system that can analyze healthcare conversations and point out opportunities for expressing empathy.
So it's like having an AI empathy coach right there in the room, gently reminding the provider to be more present and compassionate in their communication.
I love that analogy. The system can even recommend specific phrases or responses that the provider could use to express empathy more effectively.
It's like having a communication assistant working in real time, helping healthcare providers handle those sensitive conversations with more grace and understanding. That's such a cool concept. But how do you teach AI about something as subtle and human as empathy? That seems like a really hard thing to do.
That's a great question. The researchers tackled this challenge by training the LLM on a massive data set of text that's filled with examples of empathetic communication. They also used techniques like sentiment analysis and emotion recognition to help the LLM understand the emotional undercurrents of those conversations.
It's like the LLM is learning the language of empathy by studying how humans express compassion and understanding in their interactions with each other.
Exactly. And they actually did experiments to see how this LLM-based system could improve empathy in simulated healthcare conversations.
Okay, I'm definitely curious about the results. Did this AI empathy coach actually work?
The results were really promising. They found that the providers who used the system were perceived as being more empathetic by the patients, and the providers also felt more confident in their ability to communicate empathetically.
That's a win-win for everyone. It seems like AI could be a really valuable tool for enhancing the quality of healthcare conversations, creating better experiences for patients, and building stronger relationships between patients and their providers.
Absolutely. It's all about using technology to help us be more compassionate, not to replace our human capacity for empathy. Okay, let's move on to a paper that explores how AI can be used to support communication between patients and their families, particularly in the context of Alzheimer's disease.
Alzheimer's disease. It's a condition that touches so many lives and presents incredible challenges for both the individuals living with the disease and their families. I know that communication can become increasingly difficult as the disease progresses. So how is AI being used to help bridge that communication gap?
This research, led by Yulin Zhao and their team, focuses on using AI-powered chatbots to make communication easier between people with Alzheimer's disease and their caregivers.
Chatbots, those computer programs that can simulate conversations, right?
Yeah.
I can see how they could be really helpful in this context.
Exactly. As Alzheimer's disease progresses, it can be incredibly difficult for people to start and maintain conversations. This can lead to social isolation and frustration for both the individual and their loved ones. These AI-powered chatbots can act as a bridge, encouraging conversation and helping to keep those communication lines open.
It's like having a digital companion who can engage with a person with Alzheimer's and help them stay connected with their family and friends.
That's a great way to put it. What's really innovative about their approach is that they actually personalize the chatbot for each individual, weaving in information about their interests, memories, and relationships.
So it's not just a generic one-size-fits-all chatbot. It's a chatbot that knows you and can engage with you in a way that's relevant to your life.
Exactly. And they've tested this chatbot with Alzheimer's patients and their caregivers, and the results are truly heartwarming. Patients who used the chatbot showed improvements in their cognitive function and mood, and their caregivers reported feeling less stressed and overwhelmed. It's a really powerful example of how AI can be used to support human connection and well-being, even in the face of such a challenging condition.
It reminds us that AI isn't just about numbers and data. It can also be a tool for promoting empathy, compassion, and genuine human connection. Okay, let's dive into the next paper, which takes us into the world of mental health, specifically the use of AI to detect signs of depression from social media posts.
This is a really interesting area of research. This paper by Alina Vinant and their team looks at how we can use AI to analyze the language people use on social media to pick up on potential signs of depression.
Social media, it's a place where people often share their thoughts and feelings, good and bad. I can definitely see how AI could be used to analyze those posts and look for patterns that might suggest someone is struggling with depression.
You're right. And the researchers developed an AI system that uses natural language processing, or NLP, to analyze the patterns in language on social media and spot those red flags for depression.
So it's not just about looking for keywords like sad or depressed, but more about understanding the subtleties of language and how people express emotions online.
Exactly. The AI system considers all sorts of things like word choice, how sentences are structured, the use of emojis, even what time of day the post was made.
It's almost like having an AI therapist who can listen to our conversations online and give us insights into our mental state. Of course, it's important to remember that this technology isn't meant to replace human therapists. but it could be a valuable tool for early detection and intervention.
Absolutely. If we can catch those signs of depression early on, we can get people the help they need before things get worse. And the researchers found that their AI system was pretty good at picking out social media posts that were indicative of depression. It's a promising step towards building AI tools to help address the growing mental health crisis.
It's a good reminder that AI can be used for really positive things, helping us to identify people who are struggling and connect them with the resources they need to get better. Okay, the next paper on our list explores how AI can be used to personalize health education materials.
This research by Zhen Wang and their colleagues looks at using AI to create customized health education materials for patients with chronic conditions. Traditional health education materials often take a one-size-fits-all approach, but we know that people learn differently and have unique needs when it comes to understanding health information.
Exactly. Health education isn't one size fits all. What might work for one person might not work for another. So how is AI being used to create more personalized and effective health education materials?
The researchers created an AI system that uses natural language processing, or NLP, to analyze patient data, things like medical history, health literacy level, cultural background, and learning preferences. Based on all that, the AI can generate custom health education materials tailored to that individual's needs and understanding.
So it's like having an AI tutor who can explain those complicated medical concepts in a way you can easily understand, using language that makes sense to you and examples that are relevant to your life.
You got it. And they actually tested this AI system with patients who have different chronic conditions, and the results were pretty amazing. The patients who received those personalized materials showed improvements in understanding their conditions, managing their health, and even their overall well-being.
It's really exciting to think that AI could empower people to take a more active role in managing their own health. Okay, let's move on to the next paper. It tackles a problem that's incredibly common in healthcare: people not taking their medications as prescribed.
It's a massive issue. Lots of people struggle with taking their meds the right way for various reasons, and this can lead to worse health and higher healthcare costs. This research by Yuan Fang and their colleagues focuses on using those AI-powered mobile apps to help people stick to their medication regimens.
Mobile apps, they're such a great way to reach people and give them that extra support in their daily lives. But how are they being used to improve medication adherence specifically?
The researchers developed an AI-powered app that gives users customized reminders, education, and support to help them take their meds as prescribed. It's like having a digital friend who's always cheering you on and helping you stay accountable.
I love that. But what makes this AI-powered app different from all the other medication reminder apps out there? What's so special about it?
One of the big things is that the app actually uses machine learning to predict when someone is most likely to miss taking their medications.
So it's not just sending out those generic reminders at certain times. It's actually figuring out when you might need that extra nudge based on what you've done in the past and other factors. That's really smart.
It is. And based on those predictions, the app can tailor what it does. It might send a more urgent reminder, give you a pep talk, or even suggest some ways to overcome those barriers that prevent you from sticking to your meds, like remembering to refill your prescription or finding a better time to take your medication.
It's all about meeting people where they are and giving them the right support at the right time.
Exactly. And they tested this app with patients with different chronic conditions, and it turned out that it really helped people take their meds as prescribed. It's a promising example of how we can use AI to help people be more proactive about managing their health.
Okay, the next paper delves into the world of pain management, an area where we could really use more personalized approaches. What's the main focus of this research?
This research by Daniel S. Weld and their colleagues explores using AI to create those personalized pain management plans for people with chronic pain. Chronic pain is a huge problem that affects so many people around the world. It can be incredibly debilitating, impacting every part of someone's life.
I can imagine. And finding effective pain management strategies can be really difficult because what works for one person might not work for another. It's such a personal and complex experience. So how is AI being used to help create those individualized pain management plans?
The researchers developed an AI system that analyzes a whole bunch of data about the patient, including medical history, pain levels, how they've responded to past treatments, their lifestyle, even their personal preferences. From all this information, the AI system creates a custom pain management plan that fits that person's specific needs.
It's like having an AI pain specialist, someone who can help you sort through all those pain management options and find the strategies that are most likely to work for you.
That's a great way to think about it. And they actually tested this AI system with patients who have different types of chronic pain, and it turned out to be really effective. The system helped reduce pain levels and improve quality of life, which is really encouraging. It suggests that AI could be a real game changer for helping people find relief from chronic pain.
This research is giving me so much hope for the future of pain management. It's about moving away from those one-size-fits-all solutions and focusing on truly individualized care that considers each person's unique needs and experiences. Okay, this next paper deals with a topic that's really sensitive but super important: planning for end-of-life care.
This research by Joanne Lin and their colleagues focuses on using AI to help people talk about their preferences for end-of-life care. We're talking about those really difficult choices people face towards the end of their lives, things like whether they want CPR, being put on a ventilator, or having a feeding tube.
Those are conversations that most people would rather avoid, but it's so crucial to have them. And I can imagine how tough it is to even bring those topics up, both for the person facing those choices and their loved ones. So how is AI being used to make these conversations easier?
The researchers created an AI-powered tool that walks users through a series of questions about their preferences for end-of-life care. It's like having a digital guide to help navigate these sensitive conversations in a structured and supportive way.
So it's not about replacing those crucial conversations with loved ones and healthcare providers, but more about giving people a tool that can help them clarify their own thoughts and feelings and make it easier to have those difficult discussions.
Exactly. And what's really interesting about their approach is that the tool uses natural language processing, or NLP, to understand the nuances of how people talk and respond to them in a way that feels caring and empathetic. It's not just a cold, impersonal questionnaire, but something designed to help people explore their end-of-life care preferences thoughtfully and meaningfully.
It seems like that could be incredibly helpful for people who are struggling with these difficult choices. It's about giving them the space and support they need to think through everything and express their wishes clearly.
Okay, let's switch gears for a bit and talk about a paper that explores the use of AI in something a bit more lighthearted, the arts.
This research by Margaret Bowden and her colleagues looks at how AI is being used to boost human creativity in different forms of art, like composing music, painting, and even writing poetry. It's a fascinating look at where technology and art meet.
AI as an artist, that's a concept that's always intrigued me. But to be honest, I've sometimes wondered if AI-created art is really creative, or if it's just a clever imitation of what humans do. What are your thoughts on that? It's a really interesting question. The researchers in this paper argue that AI can actually help humans be more creative by giving them new tools and perspectives. It's not about replacing human artists, but more about opening up new avenues for artistic expression.
So it's like giving artists new brushes and paints, so to speak, enabling them to explore new creative territories.
Exactly. And they highlight some really cool examples of AI-generated art that have been really well received. We're seeing AI being used to compose music, create paintings, write poetry, even choreograph dances.
I'm starting to see how AI could be a powerful force for innovation in the arts, helping us create works that are both beautiful and thought-provoking. Okay, this next paper takes us into a territory that's both exciting and a bit unnerving, the world of human augmentation.
This research by Kevin Warwick and his team explores the potential of using AI to enhance human capabilities, both physically and cognitively. We're talking about things like brain-computer interfaces, exoskeletons, and even genetic engineering.
Wow, that sounds like something straight out of science fiction. I can imagine this research must raise a lot of ethical questions. If we can enhance ourselves using AI, what does that mean for how we see ourselves? Where do we even draw the line between being human and being a machine?
You've hit on some of the biggest questions this research is trying to tackle. It's not just about whether these enhancements are technically possible. It's about the ethical, social, and philosophical implications. What does it mean to be human in a world where we can augment ourselves with AI? What are the potential benefits and risks? These are really important questions we need to be asking as we develop these incredibly powerful technologies.
It reminds us that technology is never neutral. It's shaped by human values and decisions, and it can be used for good or for harm. So as we explore these possibilities of human augmentation, we need to approach it with wisdom and a sense of responsibility, understanding that we're not just shaping technology, but also the future of what it means to be human.
That's a great point. Okay, let's dive into this next paper. It explores how AI can be used to help us understand that complex world of human emotions.
Emotion AI, that's always been a fascinating area to me. But I have to be honest, sometimes I wonder if AI can truly grasp something as nuanced and subjective as human emotion. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really interesting question. This research by Rosalind Picard and her colleagues explores the world of emotion AI, looking at both what it can do and its limitations.
So what exactly is emotion AI, and how are people using it in the real world?
Emotion AI refers to a whole range of technologies that try to recognize, understand, and even respond to human emotions. People are using it for all sorts of things, like marketing, customer service, and even healthcare.
It makes sense that understanding emotions could be super valuable in healthcare. Imagine using AI to detect anxiety or depression in patients, or to help healthcare providers communicate with their patients in a more empathetic and compassionate way.
Those are great examples. And the researchers in this paper highlight a variety of ways that emotion AI is being used in healthcare, from tracking how patients are feeling, to providing customized mental health support, to improving communication between patients and their doctors.
It's amazing to think that we might be able to use AI to better understand human emotions, which could lead to more personalized and effective care. Okay, the next paper focuses on wearable technology, specifically how AI can be used to analyze data from those wearable sensors to get insights into human health and behavior.
This research by Jennifer Healy and her colleagues looks at the incredible potential of wearable AI in healthcare and beyond. We're talking about using sensors built into things like smartwatches, fitness trackers, and even clothing to collect all kinds of data about us, our physical activity, our sleep patterns, our heart rate, stress levels, even our emotional states.
It's like having a mini lab right there on our bodies,
Yeah.
constantly gathering information about our health and well-being. How is AI used to make sense of all that data, though? What kind of insights can we get from it?
The researchers highlight a wide range of applications for wearable AI, from spotting early signs of disease to monitoring how well treatments are working to providing personalized health coaching and feedback.
It sounds like wearable AI could really empower people, giving them more control over their own health and wellness. It's like having a personal health advisor right there on your wrist. Okay, let's move on to this next paper, which takes us into a realm that's both fascinating and potentially concerning: the use of AI in law enforcement.
This research by Andrew Ferguson and his colleagues explores the ethical and legal implications of using AI in policing, especially when it comes to something called predictive policing. Predictive policing is a bit controversial because it involves using AI to analyze data and forecast where crimes might happen.
I can understand how predictive policing could be a helpful tool for law enforcement, maybe helping to prevent crimes and keep communities safe. But I can also see how it could lead to concerns about bias and discrimination, potentially targeting certain groups unfairly.
You've touched on some of the core ethical issues surrounding predictive policing. The researchers in this paper really dig into those concerns, exploring how AI could actually worsen existing inequalities and biases in the criminal justice system.
It's a reminder that even with the best intentions, AI can perpetuate harmful biases if we're not incredibly careful. It's so important that we develop these technologies with a deep understanding of their potential impact on society, especially on groups who are already marginalized and might be more vulnerable to the unintended consequences of these new technologies.
You're absolutely right. Now let's shift our focus to a paper that delves into the use of AI in education.
AI in education, that's something I'm really passionate about. I can see how AI could be a game changer for personalizing learning experiences, giving each student tailored instruction and support to help them achieve their full potential. What's the focus of this research?
This research, by Ken Codinger and his colleagues, explores the use of something called intelligent tutoring systems. These are AI-powered systems that provide personalized instruction and feedback to students. They're kind of like virtual tutors, who can adapt to each student's individual learning style and how quickly they learn.
That's a really cool concept. It recognizes that students don't all learn the same way or at the same pace. How do these intelligent tutoring systems actually work? How do they personalize that learning experience?
They use a whole bunch of techniques like machine learning, natural language processing, and cognitive modeling. They can track how a student's doing, figure out where they're struggling, and provide tailored lessons and feedback to help them really understand those concepts.
It's like having a personal learning coach who's always there to help you and guide you along the way. I can see how this kind of AI could totally revolutionize education, making it more engaging, effective, and accessible for all students.
It's a field with a ton of potential. All right, let's shift gears a bit and look at a paper that explores a topic that's both really relevant and thought-provoking.
Yeah?
How AI is going to impact the future of work.
This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I know there are a lot of people who are worried that AI will automate jobs and leave people without work. What does this research say about the future of work in a world where AI is becoming so prevalent?
This research by Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee really dives into that complex relationship between AI and the future of work, looking at both the potential benefits and the potential downsides.
So it's not just a doom and gloom scenario of robots taking over all our jobs. It's a more balanced look at how AI might change the workforce.
Exactly. The researchers acknowledge that AI will definitely automate some tasks and maybe even entire jobs, but they also say it will create new opportunities and lead to new industries and professions emerging.
So it's not just about jobs disappearing. It's also about new jobs being created and existing jobs changing.
Right. They emphasize how important it is to adapt our education and training programs to get people ready for the jobs of the future, jobs that will require things like creativity, critical thinking, and complex problem-solving skills that are harder for AI to replicate.
It's a good reminder that we need to be proactive in shaping the future of work, making sure that everyone has the chance to succeed in this new world with AI. Okay, the next paper explores something that's both fascinating and a little unsettling: the potential for AI to be used for bad things.
This research by Miles Brundage and his colleagues looks at the dark side of AI, exploring the risks of it being used for harmful purposes like cyber attacks, creating autonomous weapons, even spreading misinformation.
I can see how AI could be a really dangerous tool in the wrong hands. Its ability to process information, learn from data, and make decisions on its own could definitely be used for good or for evil.
Exactly. And the researchers in this paper stress how important it is to develop safeguards and ethical guidelines to prevent AI from being misused. We need to be thinking ahead about those potential risks and taking steps to stop them.
It's a reminder that with great power comes great responsibility, right? We need to be really thoughtful about how our creations might impact the world and make sure we're using technology to make things better, not worse.
Absolutely. Okay, let's wrap up our deep dive with a paper that takes a broader perspective on AI, exploring its potential impact on society as a whole.
This sounds like a perfect way to end our exploration with a reflection on the big picture, the broader societal implications of AI. What's the focus of this last paper?
This research by Max Tegmark really digs into those philosophical and ethical questions surrounding AI, like what is consciousness, what does it mean to be sentient, and could AI eventually become smarter than humans? It's a really interesting look at what it means to be human in an age of intelligent machines.
Those are some deep questions, and I'm guessing there aren't any easy answers.
Yeah.
But it's so important that we keep asking those questions, that we keep having these conversations about what AI could mean for our world.
I agree. This research